Welcome back. This week on the WONK podcast, I spoke to Ian Bremmer, founder of Eurasia Group and G0 Media. We talked about the Canada-US trade fight, and he had some provocative things to say about how Canada might be its own adversary when it comes to a united front, but that he doesn't think it should be called an existential crisis.
I have not seen any Canadians facing questions of survival on the basis of what Trump has said and done. What he has said and done is overtly antagonistic towards America's closest ally. And it has been, in my view, self-defeating. It's going to hurt both countries in the long term, and it's going to cause a lot more damage to Canada than the U.S., of course, because Canada relies on the U.S. a lot more. And certainly the potential for Canada to enter into recession if they mishandle this is real. It is also true that Canada, since the 80s, has built infrastructure that implies that Canada is not a country. It's all been, you look at these provinces, and there's a lot of power devolved to provinces, and provinces are kind of the deep state in Canada, right? The monopolies that a lot of these capitals have. And if you look at where the pipelines are built, how the supply chain works, how the energy infrastructure works, you wouldn't know that Canada was a country. You'd think, oh, it's all of these like individual relationships with the big, powerful United States. And so the idea that Canada is going to suddenly undo that, with the snap of a finger is clearly, it ain't happening. My point was that when the Americans launch a trade war against Canada, and when they basically say that US-Mexico-Canada agreement that you thought was set in stone actually isn't, and we will change it at our whim, that it's very challenging for Canada to react effectively to that, because Canada's actual infrastructure has not been built out as if you're one sovereign unit. It's been built out to be dependent on and to take advantage of the fact that you happen to be closest to the most powerful country economically in the world. And that was my point. It doesn't look, your economic policies in building out strategic infrastructure has not been that of a sovereign. And I think that's a really important point.
I asked Bremmer about the risk AI poses. Here's what he had to say about that.
The thing about AI is I've never in my career experienced an issue where the people that are inside it have such a radically different near-term worldview from everybody else. So I think it really does behoove everyone out there to spend a lot more time getting up to speed on how fast this is moving, what it means, its impact on society, how much it's changing.
That was Ian Bremmer, founder of Eurasia Group and G0 Media, on this week's episode of the WONK podcast, which you can find anywhere you get your podcasts or on YouTube. Time for the takeaway and the dynamics of bad behavior. Delta Airlines made headlines this week on news that it's using artificial intelligence to help implement dynamic pricing. That's a fancy name for offering a different price for each customer. In some ways, dynamic pricing is as old as commerce itself. Buy the fruit early in the week when it's fresh, and you'll pay more than you do days later when it's near rotten. Airlines have been dynamically pricing for a while based on when you book, and flyers have come to understand that if you plan ahead, you get a better deal. But what about when two customers book on the same day, but one is charged more than the other? That also happens all the time. Throw in a little AI into the mix, though, and the possibilities for personalized pricing rise fast. Suddenly, the algorithm may know where you live and infer how wealthy you are, and therefore how price conscious. It certainly knows if you hesitated or declined to make a purchase of a similar size recently, and it may even know if you have to take the trip or not. Will an airline ticket to a funeral suddenly become radically more expensive because the airline knows the flyer will pay any price? The arguments for dynamic pricing go something like, it improves efficiency, so when something's in high demand, it rises in price in real time, thereby reducing overconsumption. That allocates resources to the ones who value them the most. There's a case to be made that charging more when demand is high actually allows a business to keep costs lower at other times. But the risks of advanced dynamic pricing, when so much could be known about the customer, are many. Sophisticated software will know the age, gender, and even the race of the purchaser. Could that be used to discriminate, even unintentionally? Meanwhile, businesses like Delta run the risk of eroding the trust of their customers if there isn't at least the perception of a fair price. So while dynamic pricing is here, smart businesses will be as open as possible about how and when they use it. My takeaway? In a new world where technology drives efficiency, transparency may be the most valuable currency, because what you don't know is probably hurting you already. That's Taking Stock for this week. I'm Amanda Lang. Thanks for being with us.